Hey everyone, welcome back. Are you ready to dive into some Shakespeare?
Always up for a good tragedy.
This time, we're tackling Macbeth. And let me tell you, you guys have given us some incredible source material to work with. Excerpts, character lists, historical background, you name it.
It's going to be anything but a basic plot summary.
Right. We're talking a full-on deep dive.
Yeah.
Historical context, controversies, the works. This play still has people freaking out today. We're going to find out why.
You know, it's easy to get caught up in the drama, the murders, the witches, all that good stuff.
The good stuff.
But what we often miss is just how much Shakespeare was reflecting the world around him. This wasn't just entertainment back then. This was some dangerous stuff.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, from what I've been reading, it's like he dropped this play right into King James's lap. And as king, he was kind of obsessed with witchcraft in his family tree.
And that, my friend, is where things get really interesting.
Right. Not exactly light topics, especially with the whole gunpowder plot still fresh in everyone's minds.
Exactly. 1605, just a few years before Macbeth hit the stage. Everyone was terrified of treason. You can practically feel that anxiety bleeding into the play.
It's like Shakespeare was writing with one eye on the stage and the other on the king.
Always aware of his audience, that one. But yeah, the King James connection, it gets even juicier. You see, Banquo, the guy Macbeth betrays, well, he was thought to be an ancestor of King James himself.
Well, wait a minute. So King James is sitting there watching this play where his supposed ancestor helps murder the king.
Awkward family reunion, much.
You're telling me? Talk about a power move by Shakespeare. I mean, that's walking a tightrope, right?
Big time. Especially because, in reality, historians like Hector Boygue, they say Banquo was actually in on Duncan's murder. But Shakespeare, he paints him as this noble figure, total opposite of Macbeth.
So, little historical revisionism to keep the king happy. I can't blame him. Don't bite the hand that funds your plays.
Smart man, that's Shakespeare.
But it's wild how that one change, making Banquo the good guy, it completely changes how we see the whole play.
100%. By making Banquo this symbol of virtue, Shakespeare subtly reinforces this idea of a divinely appointed lineage. Something tells me King James was a big fan of that idea.
It's like hiding a love letter to the king inside a play about murder and betrayal.
Shakespeare, the master of subliminal messaging, centuries before subliminal messages were even a thing.
Right. Okay, but let's talk about Macbeth himself for a second.
The man of the hour. Or, well, the play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is he this power-hungry monster from the start, or is there something more going on?
Now that is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's where things get really interesting. You see, critics, like Robert Bridges, for example, they point out this fascinating paradox. If Macbeth is so ambitious, so power-hungry, why is he so freaked out by the idea of murder before he actually does it?
That's a really good point. It's like every time he talks himself into it, he ends up spiraling. The guilt just eats him alive.
Guilt and ambition, a dangerous combination.
It's like that line, I am in blood stepped in so far that returning were as tedious as go o'er. It's like he knows he's trapped by his own choices.
And that brings us to the lovely Lady Macbeth.
Ah, yes, Lady Macbeth. She's,
quite the character, right? She often gets painted as this purely ambitious, manipulative figure, but she's so much more complex than that.
Okay, so not just the Lady Gaga of evil masterminds. There's more to her.
Layers upon layers, my friend. In fact, the Russian novelist Boris Pasternak, he saw a parallel between Lady Macbeth and Raskolnikov from Crime and Punishment.
Wow, now that's a comparison I never would have made.
Right. But when you think about it, both of them driven by these really powerful, even idealistic beliefs about themselves and their place in the world, it makes you wonder, is Lady Macbeth purely ambitious? Or is she driven by this twisted sense of duty, of love for her husband that sends her down this dark path? It's like she's so sure, about Macbeth's destiny, even more than Macbeth himself. And she's willing to sacrifice everything, herself, her morals, everything, just to make it happen. She's a tragic figure, really.
She really is. And speaking of tragedy, there's that whole thing about Duncan being murdered in Macbeth's castle. That always kind of bothered me.
Oh, how so?
Like, couldn't Macbeth have, I don't know, lured him into the woods or something? Why make it so messy? So personal.
You see, for Elizabethans, it's all about the setting. Hospitality, that was sacred. To kill a king, a guest, in your own home, unthinkable.
Talk about adding insult to injury.
It's like this extra layer of betrayal, It adds a whole spiritual dimension to the crime, makes it that much worse.
Totally. A one-way ticket to a guilt spiral, that's for sure. And speaking of spirals, we got to talk about those theater superstitions. The whole Scottish play thing.
Ah, yes. The infamous curse. You can't escape it, can you? Even in the 21st century. It's fascinating.
I mean, I'll admit it. I'm one of those people who won't say Macbeth in a theater. It's like, why tempt fate, right?
Right. But I've always wondered, why do you think it persists? These superstitions, I mean.
That's a good question. I guess I always thought it was just, a fun tradition, a way for theater people to freak themselves out.
Sure, sure. But there's also a historical angle to consider. Remember, beliefs about witchcraft back in Shakespeare's time, those were serious business. This wasn't just for fun. These were real anxieties.
So when an actor refuses to say Macbeth backstage, they're not just being superstitious, they're tapping into those old fears.
Precisely. It's like those anxieties are woven into the fabric of the play, of the theater itself.
Whoa, that just gave me chills. It's like this echo of the past, still haunting us today. And speaking of haunting, we've got to talk about the language in Macbeth. All those riddles and pronouncements, especially the witches.
Right. You never know if they're telling the truth or messing with your mind. It's unsettling.
Totally. It's like Shakespeare took all the anxieties of his time, the fear of the unknown, of treason, of powerful women, and he just poured it all into this play.
And the language itself becomes a weapon. Think about Lady Macbeth telling her husband to look like the innocent flower, but be the serpent under't.
Pure manipulation.
Exactly. It's no wonder people back then were so on edge about conspiracies. Language itself couldn't be trusted.
Right. And it makes you wonder, how much of that paranoia seeped into their everyday lives? I mean, talk about living in a thriller.
Absolutely. And you see that paranoia reflected in how much people fixated on real-life events and tried to tie them back to Macbeth.
Oh, yeah. Like that ship, the Tiger. You know what I'm talking about? When I read about that, it blew my mind.
It's pretty wild, isn't it? One of the witches mentions a sailor, says her husband is the master of the Tiger. Turns out there was a real ship called the Tiger.
Yeah.
And it returned to England around 1606, just after the gunpowder plot, after this insane, disastrous journey.
Get out. Are you serious?
I'm telling you, truth is stranger than fiction. Some scholars actually believe that Shakespeare added that line about the tiger after the real ship's return, a direct reference to current events.
No way. So he was, updating his play in real time.
It's possible. And I mean, talk about a way to keep your audience on the edge of their seats. It's like he's creating this tapestry of fact fiction, historical anxieties, and supernatural thrills. Genius.
Seriously, Shakespeare was playing 4D chess while everyone else was stuck on checkers.
Right. And I think that's a big part of why Macbeth is still so powerful even today. It speaks to something timeless about us, about human nature, that pull of power, that corrupting influence of ambition. And hey, let's be real, witches, prophecies, murder, it's basically a recipe for a blockbuster hit.
Don't forget the political intrigue.
Right, and it's been reimagined countless times on stage, film, even opera. Remember Orson Welles' 1936 production?
With the all-black cast set in Haiti.
Exactly, absolutely groundbreaking.
Oh, and Akira Kurosawa's Throne of Blood. So good.
It's like Macbeth has become this universal language, this way of exploring the dark side of ambition, no matter what time period or culture you're in.
It's incredible when you think about it. This play, written over 400 years ago, still has so much to say about the world today.
It's a testament to Shakespeare's genius, that's for sure. But for all its darkness, for all the ambition and bloodshed, Macbeth also offers these incredible moments of beauty, of poetry.
It's true. Even when he's writing about murder and betrayal, Shakespeare can't help but create these lines that just stay with you.
Right. It's like there's beauty even in the darkness.
It really is. It's like his words have this power, They transport you another time, another place, even if that place is, full of murder and mayhem.
Right. But even with all that darkness, there's this really profound exploration of what it means to be human, to deal with ambition, morality, the weight of our choices. It's all there.
It's heavy stuff. But Shakespeare, he just draws you in, And it's crazy. We've only scratched the surface. History, politics, curses. You've given me so much to think about.
Glad to hear it. It's a play that keeps on giving.
It really does. But I got to ask, before we wrap up here, with everything we've learned, how does it change how we see the play's core message?
That's the beauty of it, isn't it? Each layer we uncover, it adds this whole new dimension. Like knowing about the real Macbeth, the historical Banquo, does it make us sympathize with Shakespeare's Macbeth? Or does it make his choices even more terrifying? I don't know.
Right. Because on one hand, he's ambitious, he's ruthless, he goes way too far, there's no question. But then again, you've got those shadowy figures, those witches whispering prophecies, his own wife pushing him towards the throne. It's like, how much of this is really him? Yeah.
Exactly. And that question of agency, of fate versus free will, it's at the heart of the play. Is Macbeth the master of his own destiny, or is he just a puppet dancing to strings he can't even see? Shakespeare, he doesn't give us the answers. He makes us ask the questions.
He's like holding up a mirror, right, to human nature, showing us all the dark possibilities.
And that's maybe the most unsettling part of all, because whether we like it or not, there's a little bit of Macbeth in all of us, that capacity for ambition, for darkness.
Okay, now you're just trying to keep me up at night. So as we come up for air from this deep dive, and you really have given me a whole new way of looking at Macbeth, I want to leave everyone with this. What would Shakespeare say to us today? Knowing that his words, his characters, they still have this power, to move us, to stay with us after all these centuries.
I think he'd be, I don't know, delighted, maybe a little disturbed, delighted that we're still wrestling with these big questions, these timeless themes, but also maybe disturbed by how little human nature has changed. Because at the end of the day, Macbeth, it's a cautionary tale. It reminds us that power, if it's not kept in check by morality, it can corrupt even the best of us.
And on that note, I think it's time for me to go take a good hard look in the mirror. Until next time, everyone, happy reading, and be careful what you wish for.